In today's Leeds news, Leeds linked with Baartman compared to Larsson. Lang claims Bielsa pulled plug on move. Bate expected to leave. And Aaronson and Kristensen due in Leeds for court dates. Morning folks, Jay here on the 28th of November, not December, yeah. November with your Leeds United news. Hope you're all having a really good week so far. There's a bit of news to get into. The press conference is going to happen later on. I will do some sort of a short press conference review after this. We won't be doing a match day review for the midweek games. That'll be kept for the end of the week. So we'll have some short bit at the end of this. We'll cut it and we'll go back to it after that. So we'll start off and we'll get into this. And we'll start off with potential incomings in Leeds and comparisons made to some pretty decent players in the past. According to The Sun, they have claimed that Leeds are interested in Cape Town Spurs young striker Luke Baartman. Baartman is a 17-year-old attacker that has broken into the South African side's first team this year and has caught the eye of some European clubs due to some very good performances in recent months. The young player, as I said, has broken in and did score recently in their 3-2 loss to the Kaiser Chiefs. He has played 5 times for the first team already. Baartman has picked up 2 caps as well for the South African under-17 side, so is a young player of some talent so far. The Sun claimed that Leeds and Celtic are both considering making a move for the young attacker, who is expected to leave Cape Town Spurs this season due to the fact that the club is in need to bring in cash. Spurs manager Sean Connor, who has managed in Ireland in the past, although the article that this brought up basically said that he'd managed big hitters in Ireland like Sligo Rovers and Galway United, which Sligo might have been for a minute, but Galway United have never been big hitters in Ireland. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Sean Connor spoke about the player, and basically what he has said is he's talked up very highly the player's spatial awareness, his movement, pace, and he says that the attributes that he has remind him very much of Craig Bellamy and Henrik Larsson during their time at Celtic. Fingers crossed, Henrik Larsson more so than Craig Bellamy, all up. Connor went on to say that he has not had a feeling about a player like this since he gave Seamus Coleman his opportunity at Sligo. And again, I feel that Connor is just name dropping there in an interview when he got an opportunity. But in saying that, you've got a manager who's talking of a young player very, very highly, has made some senior appearances at 17 years of age, and it would be nice to get a player coming from the South African League again over to Leeds, having a South African international potentially at some point as well. Been a long time since we've had that, so yeah, fingers crossed. Good player, check him out. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on this one over the next couple of months, but again, this looks like it's more of an under-21 move that Leeds will be, restocking the under-21s over the next couple of months, I would imagine. Moving on, let's talk about Noah Lang, because we haven't talked about Noah Lang enough, in total, but definitely not recently. Lang has been linked with Leeds in every single transfer window during our last stint in the Premier League, less so since the relegations. And now he has been talking to Dutch media about lots of topics, but in the conversation, the topic of his moves to Leeds United, or rumoured moves to Leeds United, came up. Lang said that he was mentally exhausted following the collapse of his dream move to the Premier League. He went on to say that just over 2 years ago, Leeds had been linked with a move for Lang, and he says that the interest from the Whites was concrete. And in fact, Leeds had made 3 attempts to buy the player, and this comes from the player directly himself. Lang said himself that the talks were concrete, that they flew over to Holland to meet with the player, and that they had discussed it. He went on later in the interview to say that media in the area and around Europe basically said that AC Milan had done a deal and stepped in ahead of Leeds to get a deal done. Leeds were looking at a €40 million deal, so about £33 million for the player. Would have been a record signing for Leeds at the time. And he says that there was concrete there. AC Milan were rumoured and were publicised in the media as having done a deal. He said the reality was Leeds actually had backed away from the deal. And he said himself at the end of the interview that it was a Marcelo Bielsa decision himself that stopped the move from happening. Marcelo Bielsa had questioned how much work Noah Lang could do for Leeds off the ball from a defensive capability or from working off the ball and a workload perspective. Marcelo Bielsa obviously was very big and very high on players doing both sides of the game quite well, working hard off the ball. Noah Lang's mentality gets questioned quite a lot if you look at the history of him, and he's had some problems over in Holland as well. Some of it caused by himself. He had some problems with Club Brugge as well. So there's a history there, and a player I'm actually personally glad Leeds didn't get involved with, because he does seem to bring drama with him when he goes to clubs, and Leeds have had enough of that over the last couple of years. Moving on, let's talk about some younger players, and let's talk about Lewis Bate specifically. Yesterday we talked about the opportunity of 5 players potentially to go out on loan in January, but now, according to Graham Smith in the Yorkshire Evening Post, he expects Lewis Bate to also leave Leeds in January, saying that he is just not in the plans for Daniel Farke right now. Bate joined Leeds from Chelsea for £1.5 million a couple of years ago and was very highly rated as a player that could come through and help Leeds, and made 4 appearances in the Premier League for Jesse Marsh during his time there as well. He had an impressive loan spell last season with Oxford United, talked up very highly by ex-Leeds United assistant manager Carl Robinson, and had an impressive pre-season with Leeds as well, especially the Manchester United game. I keep bringing that game up. He was excellent in that game. But now it seems that Daniel Farke doesn't see a future or an immediate future for the player in his plans, and it looks like Bate may well move out in January, and a potential loan move is being touted. Leeds may want to lock Lewis Bate down onto a slightly longer contract, as his contract does run out at the end of this season, and if the loan move happens in January, potentially the player come back and ever playing for Leeds again are slim. There is still possibility that Lewis Bate could develop into a very good midfielder, and for me, he would be a player, if I was Leeds, I'd be locking down before I loan him out, in order to make sure you've got that option should he develop in the next couple of years. Should also be said that Marcelo Bielsa was a fan of Lewis Bate, did talk him up quite highly when they had him at the club, and Jesse Marsh clearly also rated the player as well, giving him a couple of games as well, slightly lesser degree than Bielsa, but did rate him, and as I said, he did have a really good pre-season for Leeds, and Carl Robinson has had lots of positive things to say about him. It'd be a player for me that I'd be worried that if we did let him leave, we'd drop down in division and come back in a year or two and, end up being a Premier League player. Carl Robinson was the man that said that it's not a matter of if but when Lewis Bate becomes a Premier League midfielder. He has all the attributes to do so. So right now it could just be a situation of circumstances. Leeds have to try and win as many games as they can, and can't really rotate and try players out in positions. They have to kind of just focus on it, and cup matches just might not be enough for Lewis Bate. So a potential loan for Bate in January. And then finally today, to wrap up, Brendan Aaronson and Rasmus Kristensen are due back in Leeds pretty soon, not to come back and play for the club just yet. Earlier this year, we saw Ian Paveda receive a court judgment around a driving offence that saw him do some community service, or is in the process of doing community service. Now Brendan Aaronson and Rasmus Kristensen are also due back in Leeds to face court dates around driving offences in January and December of this year. Rasmus Kristensen is alleged speeding offence on the A640 Knaresborough Road on February 19th, and that's due in court on December 5th in Harrogate Magistrate Court for judgment on that one. Brendan Aaronson has 2 cases, slightly different one here. Aaronson is due in Harrogate Magistrate Court on the 3rd of January. This involves 2 offences. He's due for 2 offences, and a potential disqualification will be considered in this as well. The first offence relates to allegedly speeding in a 30-mile-an-hour zone on March 12th, and the second is for failing to reveal the information relating to the identification of a driver of a vehicle when required to do so on August 9th, which seems like a silly thing to do. Kind of brought that on yourself. And that's pretty much it for today, folks. Not a huge amount of stuff going on. We're going to take a quick break right now, and then we're going to step into the press conference review with Daniel Farke. I'll see you in a second. Okay, so the press conference has just finished from Daniel Farke. Actually, pretty decent press conference. Some good questions asked by Baron Cross this week. Not the usual questions that have been pulled up in recent weeks, but we'll get into this. We'll start off with pressure. Asked about pressure on the squad and injuries and how the team is looking coming into this game. And he said that Georgina Rutter is back to 100%. He's fully over his injury issue. Coops is fine after coming off with some cramps during the week. He should be fine as well, 100%. He said Stroke's been in training since Friday. They've had 5 days training between Friday and today. He's really happy with the break that they've gotten. Not playing on Saturday, although the quick return after international break wasn't what he wanted. It has given Leeds a longer turnaround time for this game, which has given players like Pascal Stroke chance to get fit. Also, Jed Spence, Joe Gelhardt, Jamie Shackleton have all trained, and everyone is available outside of the longer term injuries like Stuart Dallas. He said they got 1 more session tomorrow, and we'll see how everything goes, but currently everything looks fine. Asked about Coops and Stroke options, and basically talking about the differences between the two and how he feels about it. Does he rely back on Pascal's previous history this season, or does Liam Cooper's performances keep him in the team? And basically he said he's happy to have Cooper available, happy with Pascal back as well, and he said that there's a short turnaround again until this Saturday's game, so having those players available means he can rotate and give players a rest if they need it. But he said it's good to have options there. He also brought up the fact of having Junior Firpo available and Sam Byram as well, talking about the short turnarounds, but giving him options there to rotate the team. Asked about Byram and Firpo both being very different. Adam Pope said that Firpo's very good going forward, where Sam Byram's better defensively, and he said they're very different players, but they're both good left backs, and he's benefited by having Sam Byram, who can also play on the right back position as well. He said top options there to give us different options, which makes us less predictable for other teams. On Swansea, he said he likes them. likes their approach. He said they're a quality side in possession. They do look at transitions as well. He said they've added intensity to their game this season as well. And he said they have different threats and many quality players in there, and we will need to be on top of our game in order to get a result at home in this game. And we need everyone to be on it and a strong performance against a good side. Moved on then to talk about having not lost in Ellen Road this year, and he's made some lovely analogies in this. Has he added steel to the team? He said, you've got to make your home ground a fortress. You've got to make it like your living room. And if anyone breaks into your living room, you defend your living room with everything. Which is correct. You would. But he did also say that you don't let people into your living room, and that you have to protect everybody that's there as well. And he said that we have to be focused on that and make sure that we protect our performance at Ellen Road and give the fans something to cheer about as well. And there's no guarantee of maintaining a winning run, so we've got to be focused on doing that and doing the work to get those results. Asked about Nick Hammond staying on a semi-permanent basis, at least for the next 2 transfer windows. Daniel Farke said he's brilliant. He said he's delighted that is the case. He said, look at our success over the summer and into this season. He said he's been a huge part of the stabilisation of the club as well. He said he's got great support from Nick Hammond, Angus Kinnear and Greta Steinson, all in different areas, but very happy to have that level of support. He said we've got a quality but small team in the back room who have added calmness in dealing with situations that we had to deal with in the summer, like the contract situation. But he said he is thankful that we have a friendly family atmosphere amongst these group, and pretty pleased with the group as a whole. And he said he's very happy to have Nick Hammond in the club, and the club is lucky to have such good people in the club right now. Asked about January deals, and I thought he might avoid this question, but he didn't. Asked about January, he said they have spoken about January, and that Nick and Greta are looking at the more long-term picture of Leeds, and they've got to keep looking at the mid and long-term picture as well, not just the short-term one. Daniel himself is focused on the short-term stuff about getting the performance on the pitch and making sure that the shorter-term players that have come in do well, and they're in the background, and they're working away the longer-term stuff in the background. But he said you've got to focus on all sides of it: the immediate future, the mid-term, and the long-term future for the club as well. Asked about conversations with Parag Marathe and does he keep in touch with him much. He said initially that they did at the beginning. They spoke a lot about the picture of the club and what he thought that they wanted to do with the club. He needed to understand that, and he said they're all on the same page. He's got a good feeling about this, and it's a really good group, and it's great to have somebody leading the club like Parag Marathe, which is high praise. He also said he's brought stability to the club as well, and he said again in that long and short term stuff, he is very much about planning the future of the club as well. He said he doesn't have too much time to talk to him during the week, and he said that they have to be very careful about finding a right balance between time that he's taken away to speak to Parag, and he said they do that very, very well. He still needs time to focus on the pitch, training, data, all that stuff that he has to do in his job. Parag, he said, leads the club, and we're blessed to have that kind of quality in leadership of the club. And he said people in the club are happy with the way things are going right now, and he said we can't enjoy ourselves too much, and we've got to be mindful that we need to stay focused and we need to stay driven on what our goal is as well. Asked about January probably being a calm month, less work to do. He said look, hopefully, he said right now it should be calm, but you never know what's going to happen over the short to medium term. He said key decisions have been made around the squad for this season already, and he said we will keep an eye on strengthening if we need to, and the loan player situation. He said look, we're doing well. We've got good staff here. We've got good players here, and he said we're going the right direction. He said and he said it'll be a much more relaxed window compared to what we had to deal with in the summer. And he said that the club is on the right path, but we won't fall asleep during the January window, that if we need to make moves and we need to strengthen the squad, we will. And he said we'll keep an eye on that as well, and we won't quieten down unless we have to. And then very finally then he talked about game load as well, with the amount of games that are coming up over Christmas. And he's basically just said Christmas will be a tough period for the club. He said we'll be in a hotel on Christmas Day because we've got a game on Boxing Day. And he said the players will spend a huge amount of time on the training pitch. They'll probably have no time off at all over New Year's at all. He said 5, 6, 7, 8 days with no time off, he said, off the pitch at all. And he goes, and that's outside of doing the data work that they have to do as well. He said it's important to find time to focus on the work, but also time to manage the mental side of the game for the players and give them time to unload and relax and calm down. And he said it's important to do that on both ends of the scale as well. And then finally he said that we have many players in the squad that we will use over the course. He said we won't be doing too much rotation, but we have players within the squad that we can rotate and will rotate over the Christmas period, and players will play games who haven't really been playing many games so far. That's been pretty much it for today, folks. Massive thanks as always for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow morning for more Leeds news, and I'll talk to you then. See ya. Bye.